This is your inner state on the interstate.
Hello, and welcome back to your interstate on the interstate. This is episode number 10, which is about forgiveness. And this is going to be the final episode of this season of the podcast. So let's get into forgiveness. So forgiveness is this amazing tool that we have that can actually free us from the ego mind, from the darkness, from all the negative thoughts that we have, the judgments that we have. It's the will, it's the act, it's the little bit of effort that we can put into our lives and our problems in order to see differently, in order to have a miracle, in order to have peace. And pretty much every single one of the seeming problems in our lives can be solved through forgiveness. The stickiness in any sort of sticky situation is because we're holding on to something, some grievance, and something that we need to give, we need to hand over, we need to give it up. The word forgiveness isn't about holding on to, it's forgiving. It's not for hold a grudge forever, it's forgiving, forgiveness. And so I'd like to share a little story about Pickles the Clown. So Pickles the Clown was a clown that my mom hired for my 5th or 6th birthday. I didn't know anything about her, but I do recall at the beginning of her performance that she was trying to make me laugh. I was the birthday girl, and so she singled me out and was doing some little trick on me. And for some reason, I just didn't find her funny at all. In fact, I remember I felt kind of sad for her. And it was like she was expecting me to smile and laugh in order for her to feel good. And when I was younger, I had no sense of needing to please others. And I remember I just sat there stoic, not smiling. And I could feel the sadness, and I could feel that she felt it when she looked at me. That there wasn't really any hiding. There wasn't sugarcoating. There wasn't playing around. I could feel whatever it was that she was holding on to. But I'm pretty sure no one else in the room, none of the other kids nor adults had any idea about this whole interaction because they were really more just focused on the balloon animals and the magic tricks. So Pickles the Clown was actually a friend of my mother's from church. And over time I got to know her a little bit, and my mom got to know her quite well because they were apparently part of a prayer healing group together. So when I was back in town, I was probably in my late 20s. I remember seeing her again, but she looked so different. She had shed all of this weight, but it wasn't about the weight. It was peace. I could just see this peace and this calm in her face. Whatever that sadness that she had all those years was gone, wiped away, washed off of her. She emanated nothing but love. And she explained that her father had abused her, and she finally forgave him. She could finally experience that peace that her heart had longed for her whole life. And I remember just seeing her genuinely smile for the very first time when she was talking to me and telling me about all this and how joyous she felt. She had tears in her eyes, just sharing about the joy that she now understood. And we hugged goodbye, and I knew that it would be the last time that I'd see her. But it wasn't a sad departure. It was that there was no ounce of sadness left, just relief, just joy. It was as if she learned the biggest lesson, the biggest triumph of her life, and it was to forgive. I think for a lot of people, the biggest work or whatever things that people do, they naturally gravitate towards things that are an attempt to solve a problem. And in her case, her being a clown was probably this attempt to, in a way, heal what she was feeling inside. If you watch the movie The Letters, and it's all about Mother Teresa and her journey and how the letters that she wrote revealed that actually she was terrified of dying alone. And so a lot of her work was alleviating a lot of people in that situation of dying alone. And she did amazing work. She helped a lot of people through it. But in a way, all of that work, that Dharma, her work in her life was very much connected with her purpose. And her purpose was, in a way, I think, to get over that fear of dying alone and realizing that it's probably not even about the form in terms of people, but knowing that we're not really alone and that we're always connected with God. And in the end of her life, she wasn't alone. She had tons of people around her. And I think it's also a way that we can look at our own lives and see, what is it that we're trying to solve? What is it that we're in a way avoiding or not directly addressing? And is there something that we can do to forgive, to let go, to learn the lessons that we need? I believe that our true nature is peace, is joy, is love. And we're so used to having reasons to not feel those things. We often want to blame other people, situations, governments. The list is endless. We can find a million, a billion, trillions. I don't know what's beyond trillions, but whatever that is, we could find that many reasons to not be at peace. And we subconsciously hold on to these resentments, these angers, these interactions, regret, whatever stories we keep telling ourselves about what has happened to us. Those negative situations keep poisoning us if we keep holding on to it. So how do we solve that problem? What do we do instead of holding on to it? We give it. We forgive. So what about you? What is your story? What is it that you might be holding on to? What's the story that you keep telling about someone wronging you, and that's why you feel bad? What is the difficulty? What is the challenge that has happened in your past that still makes you feel bad? Whatever that is exactly what you need to forgive. And realizing that this need to forgive isn't something that you need to be forced to do. It's something that you have to be ready to, you have to be willing to. And for some people, sometimes it's that the pain of holding on to that thought, that trauma, whatever it was, whatever that past situation was, it becomes too painful and there's nothing else to do, that you have to just hand it over. But for me, I like to have it more as a regular practice, something that I'm doing on the regular. Like cleaning a toilet. It's not the kind of thing that you have to do every day, but you would notice a difference if you cleaned it regularly versus not. So how can we forgive? What does it mean to forgive? I've heard of a lot of people using the term to forgive where it implies that someone has done something wrong and then they need to ask forgiveness from the person, whoever they did that thing to. But in my definition, it is actually quite limiting to think like that. It implies that you have to wait for somebody else to be forgiven, but most often it's actually ourselves that we need to forgive. In Mexico, I was taking a theta healing seminar, and one of the exercises in the class was about forgiveness. There was a visualization technique that we did with our eyes closed, and we were meant to visualize the person that we most needed to forgive to come in front of us. And so the first person that came in my visualization was myself. And after completing that exercise, we did it again 3 or 4 times. I was surprised that every single time it was myself. I tried putting somebody else there. And as I visualized that person said to me, "You need to forgive yourself." So I realized that I had been judging myself for so many past actions that I hadn't let go of. And I blamed myself. I was mad at myself, and I didn't realize how much I needed to forgive myself. So every situation that pops into your head that you feel guilty about, no matter how big or small, you can forgive yourself for. All the burdens we hold on to are forgivable. I do not believe that a single person does not deserve to be forgiven, no matter what a person has done or not done. But in order to forgive ourselves, one of the aspects is taking responsibility that we made a choice. And it's not that we made a choice to do something good or bad or right or wrong, because that is just completely subjective. It's that we made a choice to judge ourselves in that moment. We made a choice to feel guilty in that moment. And the only way out of it is by forgiving. So if forgiveness is about giving, who are we giving to? So it's giving to the Holy Spirit, or whatever label or name you choose that makes you feel comfortable, which helps to take you to wholeness, love, peace. One of the ways that I do it is I'll close my eyes and I'll just feel all of the negative feelings that I'm feeling, whether it's anger, resentment, the feelings that come with judgment, whatever it is, whatever those emotions are, wherever it is in my physical body and emotional body, mental body, I imagine kind of scooping it all up and handing it over and giving it to the Holy Spirit. It's like you are handing over a package, but that package, you're entrusting that the Holy Spirit is going to take care of it, is going to put it exactly where it needs to go, and that you don't need to be burdened with it anymore. So another way that you can forgive is bringing back this tool of Ho'oponopono, which I talked about in an earlier episode, where one of the tools in Ho'oponopono is that there are 4 phrases of I'm sorry, please forgive me, thank you, and I love you. And so you can use any of those really, because the idea with it is that you're clearing, you're getting to a state of 0, you're getting back to wholeness, to oneness. So whatever way, shape, or form it takes for you to forgive, to feel that you're not holding that anymore in your mind, that's forgiveness. Forgiveness is 1, it doesn't matter the size, it doesn't matter the severity, and 2, it doesn't matter how long it takes. It can be instant, or it can take many times. And it's really all up to how much we are willing to forgive. And how much peace we have is related to how much we're also willing to hand over. Even the tiniest judgments, the tiniest ones, are important to forgive. Because if you don't, if you keep holding on to it, it's like that tiny pebble you have in your shoe. It might not seem like it's worth it to take the time to take it out, but if you don't, the pain just accumulates over time. And it's the same thing with any judgment or any negative feeling that you have that isn't forgiven. It just accumulates over time. Have you seen the movie The Shack? The movie has some really profound ways of teaching about how to forgive, even the toughest, most difficult things. And that sometimes forgiveness isn't immediate for everybody, and sometimes it takes many times to forgive until it's unburdened in our hearts. So if you haven't seen that movie, I highly recommend it if you're willing to truly forgive. So let's go ahead and do a practice. Let's just do a nice 1-minute simple practice that you can apply to your daily life. So go ahead and close your eyes. If you're not driving, and take some nice deep breaths. And just think of, in the last day or two, someone you may have judged. It may have been something someone said. It may have been some post you saw, something you did, whatever pops into your mind. And just say in your mind, I forgive myself for judging that person. And I release that judgment right now. Please forgive me. And then imagine that you take all of that judgment, scoop it up out of your system, anywhere that you're holding on to it, and hand it over to the Spirit. And all that was taking up that space in your mind, your body, your aura, your energetic field, replace that with unconditional love. And just notice how you feel. Do you feel a little lighter? Do you feel like you might need to repeat it again? So feel free to repeat that as many times as you need. You can find any other situation that you want. You can pause this and do it as many times as you need. And you can open your eyes whenever you're ready. And I think it's really worthwhile to acknowledge every time that you forgive, you're doing a huge service to the whole world, to yourself, to all. So thank you. And the last concept I want to share with you about forgiveness is that it's also an illusion too. In A Course in Miracles, forgiveness is just that we believe that we need to forgive in order to be at peace, to be with God, to be with Spirit or Creator. And it's the perceived guilt that we hold on to that makes us believe that we don't deserve to be one with God all the time. We usually just project the guilt onto billions of people and trillions of scenarios. But truly, if we're one with God, there's no sin, there's no guilt. We're just home, back to original innocence. And I think sometimes the Bible often forgets to emphasize that which we were before original sin, and that is original innocence. And so if we can keep our minds focused on being one with God, then there's really nothing to forgive. But so long as we keep perceiving ourselves here and perceiving all of this whole experience as being real, then we might as well forgive, because that's the way to the miracle. So I'd like to thank you from the bottom of my heart for taking the time to listen to this today. It has been so wonderful to create this season of this podcast. I heard Elizabeth Gilbert, the author of Eat, Pray, Love, say something about how, at very least, upon completing something, you know yourself more than you did before. And I have to say that this experience in this process of creating a whole 10-episode season of a podcast that I've been meaning to do for a very long time was really rewarding, was really fruitful for me, and hopefully for some people out there too. Again, thank you so much. Forgive me, I'm sorry. Thank you, and I love you. Thanks. Bye for now.
Thanks for listening to Your Inner State on the Interstate. For more information, visit yourinnerstate.love.
Falling to the wind on your face now. Standing in place now. It's all at your pace now.